Hey friends, it's Gina. Welcome to the Rebookery channel. Today I'm going to attempt to scrapbook a whole bunch of photos that are kind of all like the same subject, like they're all the same photo, they're all the same picture, but they're just different variations. And this is something that I struggle with a lot because I take a lot of pictures and I don't want to get rid of any pictures because I always feel like, oh, even a little variation has some little something in it that another picture doesn't. So I tend to hang on to photos, which makes it really hard to journal or scrapbook about those photos. But I'm going to try to get all of these into one spread. So this is going to go in my garden journal, which if you've watched my previous videos, you know is an altered Better Homes and Gardens garden journal, and it has the binder rings. I use that because it's the right theme, but I use it more importantly because it just makes it very easy to take my pages in and out and add whatever type of paper and art and ephemera that I want into my book. So notice that I'm using a cookbook book jacket. That's intentional. I have these, I bought a whole bunch of vintage cookbooks a while ago, and I took the book jackets off, and I've been trying to use them because they are just so gorgeous. And there were two of these laying on my desk, and there was just something about them that I wanted to use them. But I really like them because of their size, and I feel like I can make them into a page that kind of folds out and has flaps and pockets. So I settled on this one that I think is like a country cookbook something or another. Anyway, I'm just taking the inside of it and kind of reinforcing it with some tape and then adding some paint, and it's my usual colors: yellow, turquoise, green, and white. And I sprayed some, oh, it's like that Heidi Swap ink. I sprayed some of that on it too because my paint was kind of thick, and so it helped it to thin out that paint. So I'm just kind of brushing the paint haphazardly over the back of this paper. And it's okay that it's not perfect. I'm a-okay with that. I kind of like that it's just really random. And then I'm going to take some more of that ink and I'm going to just do some splatters. And then this is a technique that I like to use quite a bit. So it's just taking the ink and taking the lid from the ink and just pushing it into the ink and then putting those circle stencil stamp type things all over my page. I love doing that. I love circles because they're so simple and they add just a little bit of interest without taking away from, the overall idea of whatever your page is. So just kind of adding some random stamps here. This is an old stamp from some office building downtown Kansas City. I found these at a junk sale. There was a whole basket of them. So I just dipped that in the ink and just kind of stamped randomly around the page. And now I'm taking some gift wrapping paper and just going to rip it and glue it onto this dust jacket. Now, I'm trying to reinforce the book jacket or the dust jacket because I am going to have it interactive. So I'm going to have it fold and I'm going to have a pocket and some flaps. So I try to make this sturdier by adding more paper. So I'm just going through my collage book right now, pulling out some papers that I think I might want to use. And I actually end up and use you'll see here in just a second, but I actually end up and use a piece of scrapbook paper that was lying on my desk. But other than that, I try to keep to the papers that I have here. I think I have a journaling card that I use. So I decide that left hand flap really is going to work well as a pocket. So I just adhere the edges to the other page so that now I have a little bit of a pocket. I'll actually later on go back and reinforce, and I stitch with my machine along the side where the holes are just because I don't want those holes to rip out. But I noticed that the place where I want it's almost like a hinge, the place where I want my book jacket to fold out it's kind of worn because this is a vintage cookbook. I mean, this is old. So I'm going to reinforce the illustrated side or the picture side with some scraps of fabric that I just took over to my machine, and I just stitched around the edges of it. And then I'm just taking some glue, white glue, and using an old gift card. I put the glue on and then just kind of glue it over that seam where I know it's going to open and close quite a bit. So now on the right hand side, I have another flap, and I could make a pocket like I did on the other side, but I think I want to keep it as a flap. So here's this scrapbook paper I was talking about. I decide that I want to use this paper and make both a flap and a pocket, if that makes any sense. And let me tell you, I had to edit this video quite a bit because it took me forever to get the paper folded right and glued right, and yeah, this was just a hot mess. So what seems like it only took me a few seconds actually took probably about 15 minutes for me to get this paper glued on correctly and turned into a pocket. But in the end, I was happy with the way it turned out. And I like that it's nice and roomy. I go and I pull out my paper punch and just kind of put a little half circle in there so I know that, you know, it's a pocket. I always like those little half circles on the tops of pockets. And then I go and do it on the left-hand side. So now I'm searching through my photos and trying to pick out, because I have so many, this is the really, really hard part. My struggle here is that I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate photos and still keep the background of that book dust jacket, because I love the pictures that were on that one side. So, you know, I have to tone down one of them, either my photos or the dust jacket, and I've got to be able to have some visual break between my photo and that background of that dust jacket. So what I do is I need to back my photo. So for this one, I'm just taking a piece of, it's like a piece of cardstock. I think it's like a little journaling card. And I put a photo on one side of it. And then I'm going to make this into a flap. And it's actually going to end up and be the title or the title page for this entire ensemble that I've got working on here. So I'm just going to use some washi, and I'm going to adhere that to the sides so that it opens and closes as a flap. And then on the inside, when you open up the flap, there is a photo that is from my house when we very first moved in. So it's kind of the beginning of this whole ensemble thing that I have going on. So I thought about titling this in the beginning, and then I thought about Once Upon a Time, and then I was looking at that picture in the upper right-hand corner of my son, who was really young at that time, and we used to laugh because he would say some pretty funny things, as most kids do, but whenever he would tell a story, instead of saying once upon a time, he would always say once about a time. So I just kind of thought, well, that would be a cool title to put on this layout, Once About a Time, because it really was once about a time, and that was about the time that he would say things like that. So once that's done, I'm going to go inside now. And I have a lot of real estate here where I can put photos. So I just have to figure out my placement. And I want to do this really quick and easy. I don't want to have to back all my photos because that defeats the whole purpose of my whole garden journal, which was I just wanted to document, and I don't want to spend a lot of time being very fussy with making everything perfect. So I decide on the right-hand side, I'm going to put two smaller pictures. And one of the ways I can help make that delineation between my photo and the background is I just take my China marker, which is that blue, that really thick blue pencil, and I just draw a border around the edges of the photo. And that kind of acts as a mat, or it kind of acts as a border so that there's a separation between the photo and that background paper. And then I just add a little label sticker, and I'm just adding the date. So now I'm going to go to the left-hand side where I have the pocket. And there's enough room there that I can add this tall photo and kind of tuck it a little bit into the pocket. So I decide to do that. And it's a picture of my husband building our front. We have this area in front of our house that was literally nothing. It was nasty weeds. And we got some free rocks, and we took all of those, we hauled rocks for one whole day, and we built like a kind of a retaining wall. And in that retaining wall, we added a bunch of plants and a tree. Now, fast forward 9 years later, the retaining wall is crumbling because we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of the right tools, and so it kind of has fallen apart. That's something that we need to do in the next couple of years, is actually put a real retaining wall. But it's served its purpose, and it's actually turned out really, really pretty. So this was the day that we put that retaining wall in. So I'm just journaling about that, about our free rocks. And then on the right-hand side, I'm just journaling about how this tree, which is really, really small in that picture, it is absolutely huge. It is one of the biggest trees in our neighborhood now, and it is beautiful. And it was actually on clearance, and we only paid $50 for that tree. So I have a journaling card here that I'm going to use. It's an old postcard with a really pretty image of like mushrooms and flowers and stuff. I'm just trying to decide where I want to place it. I try to put it in the pockets, and while it looked good there, I ultimately decide that I'm going to put it on the front, and I'm actually going to turn it into a flap. By doing that, I will then be able to have some more room to add some more photos. So now I'm just kind of figuring out what photo I want to go here. I know that whatever I get, I'm going to have to trim down so that it will fit in that space. Interestingly enough, the photo that I'm using here is actually not the one that I actually keep. And I also decide that I need something that is going to go on the back of this photo, because I need that break between the image of the dust jacket and the image of the photo. I need my photo to stand out. So I pull from my basket that's next to me and just happen to pull out another dust jacket from a cookbook. I'm telling you, people, I have a lot of these cookbook dust jackets, and I love it because I love the color and I love the images of the plants and stuff. So I just put my photo on that and then stick it down underneath that journaling flap, and I decided that I was okay with covering up the image of the country cookbook. I was all right with that. Sometimes you have to decide, if you cover up an image, are you going to be okay with that? And ultimately, I was okay with it because I know it's there. I know what was there, and what I put over top of it actually was more visually pleasing, so I'm okay with covering it up. So now I'm just journaling on the back of that, and as I'm journaling, I see that little place where it says postage stamp, and I see that little picture of a flower that I had pulled out of my ephemera book, and I decide that it needs to go in that postage stamp place. So I just staple it on there, and then jot down some of my thoughts. So now what I'm doing is going back to my photos and trying to figure out where the last of my photos are going to go. And I'm going to make another flap. And this time I'm going to back 2 photos. So I have to measure them and make sure they're cut to the same size. And I'm going to put a flap right over that pocket on the left-hand side. So again, I just secure it with washi tape. And then I'm going to stamp it with the date and all that good stuff like I've done with all my other photos, and go around it with my China marker. Some people have asked me about why I use glue on the back of my washi tape and label stickers and stuff like that. And the reason why is because Over the years of journaling, I have gotten so tired of going back and noticing that my stickers have come loose or my tape has come loose. And so I just have gotten in the habit of every time I put something down, especially if it's something that's old and maybe the adhesive doesn't work anymore, or if it's a cheaper washi tape. And I mean, the whole point of washi tape is it is repositionable. So I want my stuff to be more permanent, so I just always go over it with a glue stick, and that's just something that I always have gotten in the habit of doing. And I don't even think about it. I just always put a little, swipe it over my glue stick whenever I'm sticking something down. So I've got this pile of photos, and actually they multiplied. I actually found some more. And now I decide it is time to just stick these photos in those pockets that I've created. So I stick them in, and I happen to have paper clips that are in the shape of houses. So I thought that was kind of cool. So I'm going to clip these guys together, and then I'm going to do the same thing over on that left-hand side. And now I'm left with these last 3 pictures, and this is where I got really excited about this part right here. So my dilemma is, how am I going to put these last 3 pictures in? And I don't want to cover up the background image. So I have a stash of these packing slip envelopes that I got at a warehouse store, and they were really, really cheap, and you could buy like a box of 5,000 or something. So I love using them in my journals because the background, they're clear. So whatever the background paper is, if you don't have a tag or something in that pocket, you can see the background. So that's what I decide needs to go here. And if I trim my photos down, they'll actually fit perfect. So the first thing I do is take a piece of wallpaper, and I put that on the top of that pocket, because there's always this little sticky part right up there at the top. So that's where that blue paper is. And then notice I put that tag in, and the reason why I put the tag in is because it's easier to pull off the backing. They are super, super sticky, and I found over time that if you put a piece of cardboard in when you pull the backing off, it makes it so much easier to pull off, and it doesn't have wrinkles. So then I just trim down my photos, stick them in the pocket, and so here is my entire layout with all the flaps and the folds and the pockets, and I am super, super, super loving this. Now I need to put it in my garden journal and see if it actually works and if it looks okay. So since this is kind of the beginning of our whole landscaping journey, I decided that this is going to go at the front of my garden journal in the section called Lot Planning. So once I put it in, I close the book, make sure it looks okay, I open the flaps, check the pockets, and yeah, I am totally digging this. Guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate you spending time with me. Leave comments and questions if you have any, and I would super appreciate if you would subscribe or give me a thumbs up. Have a beautiful day, guys. Thanks.